Hi, we're here today at StudiOwz to record some drums, and we're here with Owain, who is the studio owner and engineer. So let's pop inside and get started. Okay, so we're gonna talk about microphones, but the first thing I've noticed, because I've now sat behind the kit, you've got quite an unusual looking wooden beater, yeah?
Yeah.
So what's that about?
Well, I think it makes sense hitting the bass drum with the same material you're hitting the rest of the drums with. But it's something I do change out if I want to change the tone of the bass drum.
Yeah.
I think that's an easy way.
So this would be a starting point for you?
That would be my starting point, yeah. It's got a great attack, great body.
Yeah.
Not for every song, but it's a good starting point.
Okay, and miking on this kick drum, because this is a double-headed drum with no hole in the back head. So mic-wise, what's your choice
So
there?
we've got an RE20 cardioid dynamic mic.
Yeah.
It's just a very honest sound, I think. I always love those mics on probably everything. And then the FET 47, which has got a huge low end. It's nice and soft. And they're my go-to really on every bass drum.
Yeah, and so if you had a hole in the head, what would you do?
So I'd keep the 47 where it is, and I'd put the RE20 inside the hole.
Yeah, so pretty classic
Yeah.
kind of, approach.
Yeah.
Okay, so snare drum.
So on the snare, we've got a AKG C451C, both on top and on bottom.
Yep.
I've got a 10 dB pad built into the top mic to stop the preamp overloading.
Yep.
They're nice and bright, so I don't need extra top end EQ.
Yep.
That's kind of already done.
That's an interesting angle, because a lot of people would come in a little bit closer and angle down a bit more.
Yeah.
So what's that for you? What difference does that make?
To me, it keeps it open and natural, really. It's not too close and overdone, really.
Yeah.
It just works for me in this room.
Yeah, and also the under mic, and it's interesting that that's a fair bit further away and is pointing directly at the head.
Yes.
So what's your reasoning there?
So I like to have a little bit of bass from beta in that mic as well.
Okay.
Predominantly the snare bottom and the wires and the snap, but a little bit of kick as well.
Okay, so it's because a lot of people might go same distance top and bottom because of the phase reverse, and
it also gives me a bit of flexibility if we chuck a much deeper snare on there.
Okay, yeah.
It might be lazy, but that means I won't have to move the mic again.
That's not lazy, that's just common sense.
Yes.
And so for the hat.
So on the hats, we've got another C451, a slightly newer one. It's just because it's what I've got.
Yeah. And you've got your very interesting, which is a great trick, this. I like this, just an angled XLR on it.
Yeah.
Which kind of stops it from having this cable pointing out of the top, but also, you were saying earlier that you found that if the mic is right the way down there, it's never going to fall
off. Yeah, because some of those clips are a bit saggy.
Yeah.
But I find this is a great mic for these hi-hats in particular, because they're very dark and dry.
Yeah.
So if I want a bit more hi-hat present, it's got the EQ I'm looking for already.
Yeah, I mean, they do have that top end, don't they?
Yeah.
So it is. And it's interesting as well, just the idea of snare drum and hats, all with the same microphones on.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of character maybe thing that's going on there as well.
Yeah, and then quite an opposite tone to what we've got on overheads as well.
Yes, because the overheads are set up as a Glyn Johns.
Yes.
And you've got 4038s. Anything particular that you do with those when you set them up?
So the one over your right shoulder is always going to have quite a lot of floor tom in it.
Yeah.
So more recently I've been moving this back away from the snare to try and balance out the high tom.
Right.
So I'm looking at evening the toms up together rather than focusing on the snare.
Well, yeah, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because you've got you've got a separate snare recording anyway.
We've already got 2 snare mics.
Yeah, and so you go up and listen and see where and move it depending on what you're hearing with the tom-toms.
I'll move it back if I want more high tom.
Yeah.
And then if I can get away without using tom mics, then I will. But it means I rely on my overheads.
Yeah. Yeah, even more reason to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and then in the mix, when you hit the toms, they go, the sound stage gets deeper.
Yeah.
Rather than everything being in the forefront.
Yeah.
I quite like that feeling of the toms moving back.
Yeah, a bit of space around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's natural, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. It's more how you would actually hear it if you're in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the way we record things is kind of slightly, it's got nothing to do with reality. It's all about smoke and mirrors, isn't it? No one actually listens to a bass drum with their head inside it,
No.
And I certainly wouldn't want to put my ear that close to a snare drum.
No.
Not and expect to hear anything for the next 3 or 4 days, but no, there is that kind of, there's always that search, isn't there, for something between what sounds more natural, but also still gives us the energy and the power that we need, because we're actually trying to create more of that a lot of the time, aren't we, when we're recording things.
More energy. And also, there's a conversation to be had with the drummer. If you're lacking floor tom or something, maybe they could give it 10% more.
Yeah.
Or over-exaggerate the fills.
Yeah.
So then they're mixing for you, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's why we always need to use really good drummers.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so ambient microphones.
Yes.
You've got Geffels?
These are a pair of Geffel UMT70S.
Right.
And they're in Omni.
Okay.
pattern.
Yeah.
So even though they're fairly close to the kit, because they're in Omni,
Yeah.
we get a good room sound.
And we were talking earlier, because Jack was playing for us earlier while we were just walking around the room. And there is an amazing variation in this room, wherever you stand, in the way the low end and the mid-range interact with each other. Yeah. And it was really interesting for me that I was sort of putting my head where all the microphones are.
Okay, yeah.
And going, oh, okay, I see why that's there. Yeah. And then this one, so what's the microphone?
So this is a Chandler Red.
Okay.
It has a built-in valve preamp.
Okay.
It outputs a line level.
Right. Oh, okay.
It's kind of a modern take, I believe, on a kind of 47 meter C12.
Yep.
It's quite a bright, forward, aggressive microphone. It's got a huge low end.
Yeah. And it was just interesting for me, sticking my head down here and listening to the kit. It suddenly was like a really focused position, this particular spot, which you don't get here.
Yeah.
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 It's like just that little bit of distance.
And that's in cardioid. So again, it's hyper focus upstairs.
Yeah. And so nothing else in the room now, just that these are where you're at.
For now, this is more than enough, I think.
Yeah.
If the song requires like more focus on the toms, then I put some 4-on-4s on there.
Right. And would you put those in cardioid?
Yes.
Yeah. And do you ever go up onto the balcony as well?
I have done, but I'm considering putting a permanent Decatree in at some point.
Okay.
Because on previous sessions when I've done it, I loved it. But it's a lot of effort.
Yes.
Just to go, not today. It's not sounding good.
Yeah, no, if you've got it fixed up there, then
yeah,
that becomes a thing, doesn't it?
But it's good. But if I get too far away, I feel like I get disconnected from the kit.
Okay.
That's why I like these mics closer, but in Omni. So I still get the connection, but not the disconnect.
And I just think it's really interesting what you've done with the screens, because it's like a lot of people don't seem to use screening anymore on kits.
Yeah.
So what's the difference for you in setting this up?
It's all about low end for me. Without it, the low end just disappears from the kit area, and my toms sound weak.
Okay.
But if I get too close, it also gets weak.
Yep.
But this kind of distance really helps keep the low end in the middle of the room.
Yeah, and it's nice to see some old audio kinetic screens with some
I love them.
life breathed back into
Yes.
them. Yeah, nice finish on them. Now you used to actually put your drums here and mic ambiently out
Yeah,
there.
that also works well in here.
It does.
And then we can close the doors or open them up
Yeah,
if we're doing a live session.
yeah,
The drums move around in the studio quite a lot depending on what the session is.
yeah,
But today, as it's only drums,
yeah.
this year I've been really enjoying having them in the middle.
Mm.
I love being in the big room and having a huge ceiling height
Yeah.
for the kit to breathe again.
That's the original harmonium from the chapel.